So we are continuing in Al-Mu'taqad al-Saghir by Imam Ibn Khafeef, the direct student of Imam al-Ash'ari, rahimahumullahu ta'ala. May Allah have mercy on both of them. And we are drawing ever near to the end of the booklet. And then we're going to see what we're going to do after that. Alhamdulillah, we have some good opportunities ahead of us. And we're going to start here, Yani. We are in a section where the author discusses Sufis, Tasawwuf, that is, Sufism, and Wilayah, sainthood. Just to back up a little bit, he started here with this discussion. This is a section here. We can put a title. Section. I'll finish formatting it later. He says, in this chapter, Yani, in this section, in this fasl, in this section, we mention what is specific to that group. I mean the Sufis in particular. Okay. So we talked about that a little bit. Then he said, and he holds the conviction, that believer that has been referenced until now from the beginning of the book. The pronoun goes back to that one that's all the way in the beginning of the book. He holds the conviction that poverty is superior to wealth. We said this is what some of them said. Yani, a lot of them said poverty is superior to wealth. That's very contrary to the view of kafir, by the way, as you know. What did Allah tell us about the kafir? فَأَمَّا الْإِنسَانُ إِذَا مَا ابْتَلَاهُ رَبُّهُ فَأَكْرَمَهُ وَنَعَّمَهُ فَيَقُولُ رَبِّي أَكْرَمَنِ. As for the human kafir, when his Lord gives him privilege and endows upon him, Yani, he grants him wealth and the likes of that, what does he say? فَيَقُولُ رَبِّي أَكْرَمَنِ. He says, my Lord has made me noble. My Lord has made me great. Because he's rich. وَأَمَّا إِذَا مَا ابْتَلَاهُ فَقَدَرَ عَلَيْهِ رِزْقَهُ فَيَقُولُ رَبِّي أَهَانَنِ. But when his Lord tests him and constricts his sustenance, he says, my Lord has humiliated me, because he sees wealth as superior to poverty. And he sees poverty actually as humiliation and degradation. Those Sufis, they saw that poverty is superior to wealth. Though that's not what all of them say. Yani, what's here is an open and absolute statement. Poverty is superior to wealth. From what we covered, we saw some angles, some reasons for this statement, such as that if two believers were equal in their God-fearingness, but one was wealthy and one was poor, then the poor one is better by virtue of his patience. He has to be patient with his situation. Yani, neither one is better. If we suppose that neither is better in terms of the God-fearingness, then the one who has poverty, the poverty tips the scale for him and makes him better. This God-fearing one, because of the patience that he must endure, that he does endure. He's a God-fearing one. And the poor, patient, sincere one is superior to the wealthy, grateful one. And complete asceticism, being disinterested in the world, is superior to having it partially. Only partially disinterested in the world. Still, that's better than nothing, though. Obtaining the acceptance of instead of true here, I want to say real. Obtaining the acceptance of the real God, al-haq, not by way of worship, is impossible. Yes, seeing God in the worldly abode is impossible. And then I told you, I don't know why this statement is here in the midst of this talk about saints and Sufis. But maybe he is mentioning what some people might claim is a karama for someone to see God. And he tells us seeing God in the dunya is impossible. And it means with the eyes. Seeing God with the eyes in the dunya is impossible. Yani I could squeeze in here with the eyes. It's not in the Arabic. Seeing God with the eyes in the worldly abode is impossible. I think that's a worthy insertion there. So that no one thinks that he's saying seeing God is impossible, like it looks like. Is here impossible, and we can add here religiously. Religiously impossible. Remember, there are three types of impossibilities: the mentally impossible, the normally impossible, and the religiously impossible. Seeing God with the eyes in the worldly abode is religiously impossible. Prophethood is superior to sainthood, correct. Yani, a single prophet, like Al-Tahawi said, a single prophet is greater than all of the awliya. And in fact, the lowest prophet, whoever he might be, the prophet amongst the prophets who is the lowest of them in rank, and that means his rank's still high because he's a prophet, but compared to the other prophets, the one who is the lowest of them, he is better than all of the saints. I don't know who that prophet is, or might be. And he said, the rank of prophethood cannot be reached through knowledge or deeds. Yani, it's not acquirable. It's not something you can work for or earn, prophethood. And no prophet became a prophet because of his deeds. Nor did he become a prophet by his knowledge. Nor did he become a prophet by his lineage. No prophet became a prophet because his father was a prophet. Prophethood is not inherited. Prophethood is a selection from Allah Ta'ala. He gives it to whomever he wills, to whom he knows is qualified. And the miracle is for the prophets. وَالْمُعْجِزَةُ لِلْأَنْبِيَاءِ وَالْكَرَامَةُ لِلْأَوْلِيَاءِ, while the supernatural privilege or the saints marvel, the marvel is for the saints. I'll leave it as it is here. Then he said premonition is an acquisition. So I didn't give you clear definition of premonition. And I'm not resorting to an English dictionary for this word premonition. The Arabic word is the firasa. So premonition is an acquisition. It is obtainable. You could earn it. You can get it. And the muhaddath and the mukallam are not the same as the possessor of premonition. And so I don't know why or what might be in the explanation of that. But the muhaddath is a saint inspired from Allah as if he knows something that he never witnessed. And the mukallam is the saint who is spoken to by angels or by something else. He said freedom from the slavery of worship is invalid. Batila, yani impossible. But from the slavery of self-interest is possible. Freedom from the slavery of self-interest is possible. For the one who is on his quest of asceticism, disinterest in the world, and tasawwuf, that one cannot escape the status of being a God slave, no matter how worshipful he becomes. He will never reach a status in which he is no longer obligated to do anything. And a clear evidence for that is the case of the prophets themselves. The prophets have the highest status, and they were obligated to fulfill their obligations. It was their duty to fulfill their obligations. And they were the slaves of Allah Ta'ala. So freedom from the slavery of worship is invalid, meaning impossible. وَمِنْ رِقِّ النُّفُوسِيَّةِ جَائِزَةٌ. But from the slavery of self-interest is possible. Freedom from the slavery of self-interest is possible. That means it's possible for you to overcome yourself, to defeat yourself, and be disinterested in the world. He said, slavery to God is never nullified under any circumstance. Yes. No matter how high the slave gets in rank, he will never stop being a slave of Allah, with the meaning of he will never be non-accountable as long as he's alive in the dunya. وَالْعُبُودِيَّةُ لَا تَسْقُطُ بِحَالٍ. And slavery to God is never nullified under any circumstance. And he would just explain that. One will always be a God slave. There's nothing he can do to escape this. And one will not get out of accountability as long as he's in the dunya. As long as he's in the dunya. In the afterlife, there's no more accountability. Once you die, when the angel comes and extracts your soul, then upon death, your accountability stops. You won't be accountable in the grave. And when you come back to life on Judgment Day, you won't be accountable. And when you are in paradise or hell, you won't be accountable. Because accountability is from Allah Ta'ala. And what does it mean that you won't be accountable? It means there's nothing you have to do after that. There's no obligations or anything. Not in paradise nor in hell. And it's not true that a person would make up prayers in hell. You don't make up prayers in hell. The accountability is in this life. Then you will be paid for the life that you lived. And the accountability will be over. Then the author says here, this is where we left off at. وَالصِّفَاتُ الْمَذْمُومَةُ مِنَ الْعَارِفِينَ تَفْنَى وَمِنَ الْمُرِيدِينَ تَخْمَدُ. And the blameworthy traits of the arifs. So the arif is someone who's familiar with something, someone who is aware. But how to explain it exactly, I don't know. Those blameworthy traits from those ones vanish when they indulge in the tasawwuf and the disinterest in the world. Then these things become trivial. These issues of the person, his blameworthy traits, he will become better. This will vanish from him. And the seekers, as for the seekers, those who are under these arifs, these aware ones, the blameworthy traits of the seekers of the aware ones, they simmer down, they calm down, not extinguish altogether. It decreases though. That's what he's saying. Then he said, Rahimahullah, وَالرُّجُوعُ بَعْدَ الْوُصُولِ جَائِزٌ. Returning after arrival is possible. What does that mean? What's the wusul? We said it means achieving the acceptance of God. Let's say here, though, that the wusul is God-fearingness. Return after wusul, so as if it's saying going back after reaching God is possible. It means resorting to the inferior status that one had before achieving God-fearingness, before becoming firmly rooted in God-fearingness. All of us have, every Muslim has some amount of God-fearingness, even if it is just the amount that stops him from committing kufr. So, what is this wusul here? Why I'm saying God-fearingness in particular? Because if you know some of the ranks of the pious, then this would help you here. What is God-fearingness? God-fearingness is doing all of the obligations and avoiding all of the sins. Period. So easier said than done. What is higher than God-fearingness? Wilaya. Sainthood. Now, once someone reaches sainthood, he will not go back. What's the rujur here? Going back. Yani going back to a sinful situation. So would the saint, after arrival, flip and then turn back into or turn into a major sinner? He won't. Once he reaches this status, anyone who's a wali, once he reaches this status, then he will never get out of it. Anyone who reaches the status of sainthood, he will never come out of it. Though it is possible that he would commit a sin. So I don't know that the author's statement includes that. So, but what if someone has God-fearingness, mere God-fearingness? Could he lose this and resort to or revert to being uh, a wretched a wretched one? Let's not even say kafir. A wretched one? Yes. He never became a wali here. Then he could flip to become again a sinner. And then after that, he could flip and become God-fearing again. And then he could flip and become a sinner again. Returning to sinfulness after arriving at God-fearingness is possible. الرجوع بعد الوصول. Returning to sinfulness after arriving at God-fearingness is possible. We're not talking about prophets here. We're talking about saints. Now, if a person did not reach the level of a saint at all, let's say he is God-fearing but is not a saint, then for sure it is possible for him to return to sinfulness, even major sin. Major sin. After being God-fearing, he could return to major sin. What's God-fearingness? God-fearingness is doing all of the obligations and avoiding all of the haram. That's God-fearingness. Two easy words whose practice is not as easy as the words are. Returning after arriving is possible. Returning after arriving is possible. But if he's a wali, if someone is a bona fide saint, what would he not return to? So that you understand how to apply the words of this line here. What would a saint not fall into? He will not fall into blasphemy in the first place. So that doesn't even apply here. So the saint will not commit blasphemy. And he would almost not commit a major sin. He would practically never commit a major sin, but it's not impossible. It's not impossible for a saint to do a major sin. So if that's the case of the saint, then what's the case of the God-fearing one who is not a saint? The God-fearing one who is not a saint is not protected from blasphemy. This God-fearing one, the taqi, yani, let him know that despite his good standing, his prayers that he performs, his fatihah that he recites validly, and his fasting, and his charities, etc., he is not impeccable. Okay, so returning after arriving is possible. Now you have more clarity for what this line means here. Why he's talking like this? Because he's a Sufi. They have their own ways of talking. Every people of the people of any field have their own way of talking. Now, continuing from where we left off, the author says, وَيَعْتَقِدُ أَنَّ الْعَبْدَ يُنْقَلُ فِي الْأَحْوَالِ حَتَّى يَصِيرَ إِلَى نَعْتِ الرُّوحَانِيَّةِ. And one holds the conviction that a God slave is transferred through, says spiritual states. I'm going to remove the word spiritual here. I'm going to put the word stages. Is transferred through stages, ahwal, situations. The slave goes through situations, circumstances, stages. What are these stages here? These stages, they are things that happen to a slave. They are circumstances that come to the slave. These stages are circumstances, or these circumstances are stages that the slave goes through. And what is that? Levels of becoming completely engulfed in the love of God. Being completely engulfed in the love of God. This is something very few people experience. What's recorded about the people who have experienced this in a complete way is mind-blowing. You basically lose their minds. حتى يصير إلى نعت الروحانية. He goes through these stages until he arrives at the description of ruhaniya. Maybe I could say spiritual. Of spirituality. Meaning, he goes through these stages and he's patient with his calamities, fulfilling his obligations, avoiding all of the sins, and doing an extra good deed, at least one extra good deed. Then, once the person reaches this status, which is wilaya, فَيَعْلَمَ الْغَيْبِ, then, the author said, then he will know the unseen. And this statement needs clarity. And the clarity is to say, some of the unseen. So he holds as a conviction that a God slave is transferred through stages until he attains the attribute of spirituality. Unless there's a better way to translate that. Na'ati ruhaniya. So once he reaches this status, which is the wilaya, he will be firm, patient with these situations, these circumstances that are passing on him or her, until they arrive at the sainthood. Until they arrive at the sainthood is the meaning here. فَيَعْلَمَ الْغَيْبِ, and then they would come to know some of the unseen. Some of the unseen. وَيُطْوَى لَهُ الْأَرْض, and the earth folds for him. That's a reference to the Ahlul Khutwah, the people of the footsteps. So the author is for sure talking about a wali here at this point of the line. This is confirmed for many of the awliya. There's many stories about awliya who were Ahlul Khutwah, the people of the footsteps. Here, the author, he offers an explanation to their case. He said, the earth folds for them. وَيُطْوَى لَهُ الْأَرْض وَيَمْشِي عَلَى الْمَاءِ, and he walks on water. عَلَى الْحَقِيقَةِ. So that's what some scholars said about the people of the footsteps, that the earth folds for them. Others, they said, it's not that the earth folds for them, but that Allah will enable them to cover great distance by a mere step. If we say the earth folds for them, then means they can just take a footstep. Yani, the earth will fold for them, and then they just step. When the earth unfolds, means they are very far away from where they were. There's many stories like this. Did you hear the story about the scholar? There was a scholar, it was said, someone followed him after Jumu'ah. They said, this sheikh, I'm curious what he does. How's his time on his own? So he followed him after Jumu'ah, without that sheikh knowing he was being followed. So at first he saw him doing all the normal mundane things. Maybe he goes to the market, or maybe he does this thing or that thing. All very normal things. Then he just started walking. He was walking for a long time. And this man was following him. So he walked with him until they got to a masjid. It was like Asr time. So the one who was following the sheikh, he was tired. He went and took a nap. He saw the sheikh tending to an old man. And then he was so tired, so he took a nap. So when he woke up to find that that sheikh that he followed was gone. So he went to an old person that he saw that sheikh tending to. And he said to him, where is that scholar? Where's that sheikh who was tending to you? So that one said, I said wheelchair. Yani, he's bound. I don't know what he's sitting on. Not necessarily a wheelchair. So he said, I don't know where he is. He just comes to me here every Friday and he helps me out and then he leaves. So that man said, okay, can you point me in the way of Baghdad? Point me towards Baghdad. So the man was astonished. He said, Baghdad? It takes a month to get to Baghdad from here. So that man was stuck there. Until the next Jumu'ah. Until the next Jumu'ah. When the sheikh came, he went to him. He said, Sheikh, I followed you here and I got stuck here. So that sheikh was very upset with him. He was mad at him for following him. And he was upset with him and he told him, okay, you're going to follow me back. So then he started walking back and that man was behind him. Until he got to an Iraqi town. I don't remember if it's Baghdad, Basra, what? I don't remember. So once they got back to the town, then the sheikh turned to that man. He told him, you know where you are now? He told him, yes, thank you. He said to him, don't you do that again. So, what does that story prove? This is just one amongst many stories of the people of the footsteps. And according to this story, then proves that someone who is in the vicinity of a saint will benefit. Someone in the vicinity of a saint will benefit from his blessings. فَيَعْلَمَ الْغَيْبِ. So then this one who becomes a saint, he will know some of the unseen. وَيُطْوَى لَهُ الْأَرْضِ. And the ground will be folded for him, according to a saying. وَيَمْشِي عَلَى الْمَاءِ. And then he will walk on water. وَيَغِيبُ عَنِ الْأَبْصَارِ. And he becomes hidden from sight. Wallahu alam. We'll stop there. There's a brief lesson, but I think I need it to be brief. I really would like to go further, but let me stop there. We're almost done, though. Any question? And these are just, of course, a little bit of the karamas mentioned about the saints. The people of the footsteps, the people who know some of the unseen. For some of them, Allah will give them actually super strength. That happened to Ali ibn Abi Talib. That's how he carried a castle door. He carried a castle door on one arm or in one hand, and when he was done, he tossed it to the ground, and it took many, many people just to flip it over. Like what else? Like talking to animals. I already said walking on the water. And like finding food and drink whenever you need it. Just lift a rock and there it is. There's money or there's a cheat. And he becomes hidden from sight. I didn't even get the last line. So that's why I'm trying to stop the lesson before I burn out here. وَيَغِيبُ عَنِ الْأَبْصَارِ. And he becomes hidden from sight. That's also amongst the cases of the awliya. Some of their marvels will be right there. And you wouldn't see him. Subhanallah wa bihamdi. Where it says here, he walks on water. Yeah, that's something that a wali would do. And other things, other types of karamas. Wallahu a'lam.